The town of Berlin. Country charm at the center of Connecticut.
Town meeting to order, and then we have to elect a moderator. Who is the moderators usually?
Usually is, yes.
Me. Do they have to step down?
They should.
Okay. If all the counselors would step down, and I'll stay and moderate this best I can.
So your first order of business is to elect a moderator.
Got it. See it. I'll see if I can follow the script. Not always easy. So we just need a nomination for a moderator. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor? Oh, I guess you guys should say that. And then, all right, so now eligibility to vote for this town meeting. Any person who is an elector of such town and any citizen of the United States of the age of 18 years or more who jointly or severally who is liable to the town for taxes assessed against him or her on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town. Reference Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-6. Legal notice. Kate?
A special town meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the town of Berlin will be held at the Berlin Town Hall, Council Chambers, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut, on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, at 6:45 p.m. to vote on the following for the following purpose: to obtain approval of the non-budgeted appropriation of the State of Connecticut Youth Service grant increase in the amount of $5,753 to the Youth Services expenditure account, dated at Berlin, Connecticut, this 13th day of May, 2019.
Thank you. So now, is there a resolution to come before the town meeting?
Okay, resolved that an appropriation is requested by the town manager in accordance with section 7-11, Berlin Town Charter, $5,753, and the State of Connecticut Youth Services grant increase the Youth Services expenditure account.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that? Thank you. Discussion. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the discussion, and we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. And the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Motion to adjourn? All those in favor? A motion is not necessary. All right? Motion is not necessary. We just adjourned it.
Meeting it is, yeah.
Huh? Okay, folks, how are we doing tonight? Okay, we're going to call this town council meeting to order. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Ajello Stetson.
Present.
Councilor Giannoni.
Here.
Kaczynski.
Here.
Councilor Luddy.
Here.
Councilor Pagliaro.
Here.
Councilor Payanessa.
Here.
Councilor Rosso.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mayor, you have the three proclamations. All right. And then just make sure you take the right one and whatever, who you're bringing up first.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, tonight, before we start with our meeting agenda, we have some proclamations. The first three are for Eagle Scouts that we have. I attended a couple of their ceremonies. Councilor Panessa attended one of them, but I wanted to call our Eagle Scouts here to honor you in front of the council as well. So, go ahead and start with the first one I have in front of me, and it is Eagle Scout Kyle Bisson. I want to read what their project is and obviously how they how they helped out the town. Kyle's Eagle project involved making 13 park benches for the Berlin Lions Club fairgrounds for additional seating in the kids' amusement ride area and other needed areas of the fairgrounds. Each bench was made from scratch, from mixing concrete, pouring it into the forms, staining the wood, and the final step of bench assembling. His project could not have been done without the support and volunteering of time by his family, scout parents, leaders, scouts, and Lion members who helped him with his project. And as I said to you at your induction ceremony, we always need more seating at the Berlin Fair, so that's great, especially for those of us that can't stand that long anymore. So if you would, Kyle, come up and I will represent your proclamation on the council. Town of Berlin proclamation be hereby known to all. The Town of Berlin hereby recognizes Kyle Basson on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts of America, in recognition of his commitment to his family, community, and the principles of Eagle Scouting. The Town Council congratulates Kyle and extends best wishes to him and all his future endeavors. Dated this 24th day of March when we had your ceremony, so by Mayor Mark H. Kaczynski. So congratulations again. Thank you so much. We have a second one now. We have Gabrielle Confresco. And Gabrielle's Eagle Scout project improved the soccer field at BHS West. He reseeded the field in areas and replaced 1,000 square feet of sod. He had to get approval from the Park and Rec Commission and the Town Council. Actually, when the Eagle Scouts come to us with a project, you know, we do approve them, and we just obviously we appreciate all of the extra work that all of our Eagle Scouts do. So, Gabrielle, if you want to come up and go ahead and. Town of Berlin, Town Council proclamation, be it hereby known to all. Town of Berlin hereby recognizes Gabrielle Confresco on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts of America, in recognition of your commitment to your family, community, and the principles of Eagle Scouting. The Town Council congratulates Gabrielle and extends best wishes to you in all future endeavors, dated this 24th day of April, 2019. Mark H. Kaczynski, Mayor. Congratulations again. Thank you. One more Eagle Scout, and then we have another couple presentations. Okay, we have Matt Gajewski. I was able to attend Matt's induction ceremony. Matthew's father was a 33-year Army veteran before passing away in 2012. In honor of his father, Matthew wanted to do his Eagle project to benefit our local veterans. He learned that a lot of veterans suffer from anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and that in the outdoors helps to relieve some of these symptoms. With that in mind, Matthew constructed an outdoor recreation area consisting of 2 bocce ball courts, 2 horseshoe pits, a basketball hoop, 6 picnic tables, 2 park benches. His project took over 4 months and 370 hours to complete. So, Matthew, if you meet me up there, we'll go ahead and Town Council proclamation, hereby known to all that the Town of Berlin hereby recognizes Matthew Gajewski on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts of America. In recognition of his commitment to his family, community, and the principles of Eagle Scouting, the Town Council congratulates Matthew and extends best wishes to him in his future endeavors. And this was dated 20th day of April 2019 by by myself, and as I said, congratulations from one ski to another. Congratulations, Mayor. Again, we appreciate it, gentlemen. You did a great job, great service to the town, as I think we've heard and said at some of the induction ceremonies that I've been to and other counselors have been to. You know, Berlin's all about volunteering. You know, whether it's the council, the Board of Ed, the Board of Finance, all our boards and commissions, and many other volunteers in all aspects of our school system and community. You started off on the right foot by helping your town, so we appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you again. Okay.
Mark, if I can,
Yes,
just very
absolutely.
quickly, I just wanted to say that I have a nephew that attained the rank of Eagle Scout, and I know the commitment and the dedication that it takes, and each one of you has really just made a wonderful contribution, not only to your town, but to people. Matthew, what you did was very humanitarian. Every one of you just did a really lovely job on contributing to your community, and it's greatly appreciated. You're doing good things in the world. Thank you. That's Kyle, Gabriel, and Matthew.
Okay, thank you. So now, have 2 Cub Scout packs. Oh, they're anxiously awaiting. So we have, Peter, did you want to come up or read? You can do it. Go, together. So we got, why don't we want to bring up pack 5 first? You guys want to come up here? Oh, sure. Both of everybody?
If
Yeah.
we could, both
Of course.
facts together.
Yeah, that's it. And pack 41. Let's get them all up here.
Come on up here.
Perfect. So we have some certificates of appreciation. Do you want to read one? I'll read the
Sure.
second one.
Certificate of Appreciation. The certificate is awarded to Cub Scouts Pack 5, of which I was a member many, many years ago, for their contribution to a cleaner Berlin through their participation in the trash cleanup effort at Veterans Memorial Park on Saturday, April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. We have a second one to our Pack 41. Again, certificate of appreciation awarded to Cub Scouts Pack 41 for their contribution to a cleaner Berlin through their participation in the trash cleanup effort at Veterans Memorial Park on Saturday, April 27th, dated today's date by the Berlin Town Council and myself as the mayor. Congratulations very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our youngest volunteers. That's great. Thank you.
Starting them young.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Great job.
Thanks.
That was the high point of the day.
That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
What's the capacity?
Where's that little?
Okay, so now we move on to our audience of citizens. I can't believe anyone's here to speak tonight, but you will have the mic. So we have some people that signed up, and we'll go ahead and call their names first, but then, you guys can, the rest of the audience can raise your hand as we go, and I would ask that if, as Keep it brief, if you would, please, so we give everyone ample time to speak. So the first one on the sign-up list is Sarah Patel.
First, I just thank you so much for recognizing our young scouts. I think that it sets them up for a lifetime of volunteering and knowing that their community appreciates what they do. So thank you so much for that. I'm here on behalf of our young people because I think that we really need to keep that $500,000 and $95,000 respectively for both projects, obviously the BOE and then that phone system in our budget at that level. To think of the reductions is frightening, and I've spoken on this several times, and I will continue to speak out for our kids because they are our most precious resource, and we have to invest in them monetarily as well as with our time. And I think you can see from all the people in the room tonight and as past meetings, people are putting their time in, but now we have to put our money where our mouths are, and it's that time. So I just really want to speak up for our youngest, most precious resource and say that we need that money to educate them to the best of our ability. When I look at statistics that draw us down to 106 percentile and things like that, out of 169 towns, that's a frightening statistic to me when we think about all of the wealth that Berlin has. And I understand that people don't want to spend it, but it's time. We have to spend it on our kids. We've fallen low enough. We need to see that number reverse and go back up towards the top. And so I know that you'll hear from lots of people tonight, hopefully saying the same thing as I am, but I really hope that you can consider how important it is that our children need this funding for their education. Even with the $500,000, they are still going to feel deep cuts and deep impacts in their classrooms, in their schools, at every level that are concerning. But we know that we can't get any more than the $500,000. So I think that we're here to say, give us that, and we'll leave you alone for a little while. And we'll come back strong, hopefully, and we can continue to push the Board of Ed and the Town Council in the right direction with our children first and forefront in our minds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one on the list is John Payton.
I wanted to echo what Sarah had said as well. In addition to, don't get rid of any of the technology teachers or any of this other that you guys are talking about. These kids need the best technology they can get. And by cutting that, you're going to kill these kids. They aren't going to be able to do anything. They're not going to know what needs to be known if you keep cutting back. Make it higher. Make it higher, man. Come on. Thank you.
Rachel Rochette, next on the list.
'61 Ellsworth Boulevard. So I'm here to speak on two things. First and foremost, I did notice on today's agenda, the budget discussion is the very last item on the agenda. I respectfully ask the council to move that to the first item so these folks can go home to be with their families. Secondly, when I arrived, I did see that the mayor was leaving with the superintendent and the president of the BOE. I strongly hope that that was not to cut ESS out of the budget, which is what we have heard was the deal that was being made. If that occurs, once again, you are going to have kids that are at the most risk having to stand up in front of strangers and plead their case every year. If it comes out of the operating budget, if that's the deal you made, you are disappointing this town and these kids. Thank you.
Last on the list is John Richards.
In a shameful plug, Mayor, it's John Richardsky. I don't have my Cub Scout uniform on or sash, but I thought that might enlighten some things and get me a better voice here tonight. The last speaker just spoke to ESS. The comment I would make is that I attended the Board of Ed meeting where during the consent agenda, year-end funds were transferred into contracted services for the potential use for ESS. Where it goes from there, I'm not a member of the Board of Ed, I can't say that, but I had mentioned at the Board of Finance meeting that was held that the Board of Ed does not intend to cut ESS, and it intended to, at that time, fund it with year-end funds. That plan is still in place. At least it's a viable alternative. Number two, sadly, after my shameful plug, I need to apologize to the mayor. I sent you a letter, and I asked for an itemization of the $300,000 for what I termed a security plan. Let me, before this audience, correct that to the specific line item that is in 3561, Department 61 for schools. It is in particular school security guards. So that is at referendum number one, it was at $300,000. There's been some discussion as to what it contains, but quite frankly, it's limited to personnel. I have confirmed with Board of Education and with the facilities manager within the town that the cameras, video recording, access to the feeds by the police and or administration is being handled separately, and thus it wasn't taken out. I was trying to do a comparison of what the town had put in the budget and what the Board of Ed had requested. So the last part is I sent a note to the council. I have copies of it here if need be. The selection really is director, which had been made an offer at that same Board of Ed meeting about a week ago, plus blank guards. I don't know whether you're prepared to answer that now, but hopefully that will be answered in H11, or if Mrs. Rochette has her way, it'll be sooner. But anyway, that's what I think that we're looking for, is what the commitment is for the town, and I'm certain that the Board of Education is happy that the council is willing to support school security personnel and equipment in a manner that will do by our town. The cuts that were talked about, I'm a member of the Board of Finance, so I don't want to mislead anyone. The Board of Finance did put back $500,000. Someone, I think, had asked, does that reverse all the cuts? It certainly does not. It leaves the Board of Education's originally submitted budget $1.2 million less. I know Mr. Letty would probably add that it's still an increase, which it is, of 3.2%. The point of the matter is that with ESS in limbo, I'm hoping that whatever considerations were made, that if it's put to the operational budget, certainly the $500,000 can remain so that that can be done. We know that there's a listing of cuts. Certainly the cuts got deeper as the number got bigger, and what we're trying to do is just determine what's a reasonable value, and hopefully the value that was forwarded to you by Board of Finance can be found to be acceptable. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
John. So that's the end of our list who signed up. So anyone else wishes to speak, you can, yes, we'll raise hands and I'll accommodate everyone.
Mayor, if I may, I need names and addresses.
Okay, yes, right.
Thank you.
My name is Pam Baklasky, a fellow ski by marriage. 228 Winesap Road. So if someone were to ask you if you'd rather pay $5,000 or $5,200 for a used car, the answer would be simple. You'd say $5,000. If it's the same car at both prices, why would you pay more than you had to? So if someone were to ask you if you'd rather pay $5,000 or $5,200 in property tax each year, the answer may seem to be just as simple. Who wants to pay more for property tax? The problem is the issue of property tax does not exist in a vacuum. The services and systems of our town can't be improved if we insist on keeping property taxes the same. When you look at the big picture, you have to ask yourself, if we fight to keep property taxes steady, what are the implications for our town, for our school system? The current Board of Education has done an outstanding job of informing the town about the school budget with a number of articles in the Berlin Citizen. I was both surprised and dismayed to learn that while Berlin is ranked 65th in the state in terms of wealth, we've moved down to 106th place when it comes to per pupil spending. What does this say about our town and its priorities? It certainly appears as though education is not terribly important. Members of town council are working hard to keep the property taxes stable, but you have to ask yourself, at what cost? At the last Board of Finance meeting, a good number of residents spoke up about the need to restore funds to the school budget. Before the Board of Finance moved to restore $500,000 to the Board of Education budget, there were a number of cuts on the table that would be extremely detrimental to our school system. McGee sports and extracurricular activities were on the list to be cut. Unless you work in a school or have a middle school student, you may not realize how important these programs are to the mental health and overall well-being of our students. I've been in the field of education for 30 years. In that time, I've seen how the pressure of high-stakes testing has made school a more stressful place than it's ever been. Extracurricular activities like the drama club, robotics, and sports provide a crucial outlet for our students. Involvement in a club and a team help to improve our children's health, help to create a sense of community, team spirit, and belonging. We have sports at McGee like track and cross country where every student who wants to participate is welcome on the team. I've seen boys and girls and parents together cheering for both the fastest and the slowest runners on the team because they feel that sense of community. I've been to shows where I see our young students singing, dancing, and acting on stage, growing in their confidence. What's the alternative if these activities are cut? To have 700 preteens arriving home from school at 2:45 with nothing to do but play video games, watch YouTube videos, and maybe do some homework while their parents are still at work. Who would want to move to a town like that? What will happen to all of our property values if people don't want to move to Berlin? Last year I attended this meeting and I listened as a man spoke about how Berlin has too many administrators in the schools. He recalled being sent to the assistant principal himself as a high school student, and in his memory there was always another assistant principal who wasn't busy at all. I have wanted to respond to that comment and to the idea that it would be a great financial move to cut the assistant principal at McGee. As someone who spends every working day in a school, I have to stress that anyone who thinks that assistant principals don't do anything hasn't spent any time in a school in a very long time. When I go to ask my principal or assistant principal a question at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on any given day, they are often eating their lunch. I'm sure Mr. Benigni would welcome anyone to come and see what our administrators do over the course of a school day and well beyond contract hours. My own children attended Griswold School when there was a full-time assistant principal. Their experience at Griswold School was outstanding, and I believe that was due in large part because we had the strong leadership of Ms. Jerpin, a full-time AP, dedicated teachers, and strong professional development. The AP position has already been cut both at Griswold and Willard schools. Cutting an AP at McGee would be a terrible mistake and one that would weaken the school system and make it more difficult to deal with issues of discipline and behavior. And finally, 2 incredibly brave and articulate high school students spoke passionately about the need to fund the ESS program. They spoke on behalf of students with severe anxiety and depression. They shared that ESS was literally saving students' lives here in Berlin. Anyone who follows the news knows that anxiety, depression, and teenage suicide are on the rise throughout our nation. With ESS, we have a program specifically designed to meet the needs of these students and to provide the support they need to be successful in school and in life. And yet, with our current budget situation, students and community members have to speak up each year to make sure that the program continues. It is embarrassing to me to think that this is the kind of town where keeping the mill rate at a certain level is more important than the lives of our young people. So to the members of Town Council, I urge you to consider the fact that the majority of voters have voted no, that the school budget is too low, and that the Board of Finance has asked to restore $500,000 to the Board of Ed budget, and make sure our schools have the funding they need to educate the whole child and help this make this the kind of town that people want to move to. Thank you.
Next, Art. And then we'll go back over to this side.
Art Powers, 857 Worthington Ridge in Berlin. I've lived in this town a long time. We had horse and buggies just part of the time. I went to Worthington Grammar School, 8 grades and 4 rooms. Teachers were Miss Miner, Miss Cross, Miss Ross, and Catherine McGee, who was the principal and teaching 7th and 8th grade. So I would go back to a situation where kids got a very good education, 2 grades to a room. It was something that we should be proud of. Those teachers were wonderful, and they taught the kids, and they got salaries which were next to nothing. Why I'm saying this is I've watched this town grow. I've been a part of it, and I'm proud of what has taken place. We were kind of stagnant for a good many years, and then we got a group in there that wanted to see the town grow. The way we did it was by getting together, the Republicans and the Democrats. We had, at that time, we didn't have a council. We had 3 members of the executive board. We had a board of finance, board of education. And we got along. We had our arguments, but we would sit together and we got things done. There were arguments, and when the arguments were over, we were all friends. This is not the way it goes today. We were able to build schools, Hubbard, Willard, McGee, Griswold, did I say that? A town hall. We had parks. Hubbard at Sage Park. We had, of course, the golf course and the park over in Kensington. We had swimming pools. How did we do that? We weren't a big town. What we did was we were honest with the public. We said, here's what we need to do. Here are things that we need. Education is primary. Obviously, education is primary. If we don't raise our kids with good educations, what can you expect in the years ahead? Are they going to be able to run the town? Are they going to be able to have good occupations? We had a good board of education and people who believed in education. What I'm seeing today is arguments over the littlest things. We are going to keep the tax rate down. We can't increase taxes. Let me tell you, we went through 20 years when I was mayor of this town and first selectman. We were able to do things. If the items belonged in the budget, they went in the budget. We didn't bond for them. We've got ourselves going crazy with bond issues. We can't do that anymore. If we need things, we put it in the budget and we suffer that year while we pay for it. So what's happened over the last few years, I can't appreciate, because we just had too many arguments and cutting things out of the budget, and the Board of Education has lived with a 1.3% increase for the last 5 years. That is disgusting. We deserve more than that. And the principal, we have a superintendent who's doing a great job. We've worked with many town officials, I know, but there are too many arguments over petty things because we have to keep the taxes down. You know, even with a town garage with leaks in it, we can't do it this year. We have to keep the taxes down. But education is primary. And I'm here tonight to just talk to you and try to impress upon you how important it really is. We can't fight over these little items. You know, $500,000, that's been argued and argued and argued. The ESS, we can't cut that program. We've got programs that we have to pay for, and we have to do it now. When we had our 20 years in office, we never cut taxes. I said, no, we don't cut taxes. But at the same time, we never increased them over a small amount each year. And the reason was, 1 year we'd have a surplus, we'd save it and use it the next year if the needs of the community wanted it. In other words, the taxes were going like this. They didn't go like this. And I'm telling you what's going to happen if we keep cutting the budgets the way we are now. We're going to have we're going to have a real bite in our rear ends because all of a sudden we're going to get a 4 or 5 mil increase and we're going to say what happened. So I'm asking tonight that I'm just trying to impress upon everyone the importance of getting sufficient budgets for the Board of Education. You can't keep cutting education and expect that you are going to have people move into this town, that industry is going to come into this town. Industry's not going to move in when their employees aren't going to want to come to the town because we don't have a decent education process. So I just urge you tonight, all of you, to think in terms of what is best for this town, what is the most important thing in this town. It's the education of our children. We should support them all the time. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Mike Uranaga, 1075 Orchard Road, in a town that has Pam Buklasky in our powers that I want to live in, I can tell you that much. So I'll try and follow. There's an increasing alarm of the parents of the children in this town and the parents of the children enrolled in the Berlin schools because of the language coming from the town council, the language coming out because of the budget and the referendum that we went through. A lot of the things that are concerning to me and to some others are hearing about that it's only 13 votes that people decided to vote that the budget was too low for the Board of Ed. That's really short-sighted when you use those words. 13 votes in the majority are 13 votes. You have to respect the votes of the people that came out to register their opinion. It could have been 3, it could have been 3 million, but it means the same. More people are concerned with seeing the money spent on education in this town than those who would rather see it diminished, and it's that simple. There needs to be more concern about the direction of this town in regards to the future. I hear a lot that we're doing just fine. Berlin's doing just fine. But if we begin to erode the very foundation of this town, the education budget and the education of our children, the town will quickly start to slip before we even know what's going on. Over the last 5 years, our education system has been funded at an increase on average of 1.38%. It lags behind many towns in our area: Rocky Hill, Newington, Farmington, Weathersfield, Glastonbury. Can I keep going on? Should I keep going on? It leaves us at a point where we cannot pay contracts that come due and keep pace with cost of living increases in teacher and administrative salaries. These numbers have to matter. They need to matter. Do you want to be known as the town council that started to drag our schools back? Where is your commitment to the future? I recently had a chance to attend a few meetings where the Board of Ed budget was discussed, and I've been in a great many conversations about building the budget for the town. I've heard the phrase from people, this is a very hard thing to do, several times, and I don't doubt it. All of you are volunteers, and I understand the life of a volunteer is not easy. I wear the uniform of a volunteer right now. From scout leader to coach, I volunteered a lot. It's not running a town, and I understand that, but it is something. You know what else is hard, though? Having to face my son, who spent a year working hard to develop himself running track and cross country, who took that confidence that he made for himself running to his work in the classroom. And then I have to tell him that he and his classmates can no longer compete for McGee Middle School sports because the budget was cut for it. What else is hard? Having to face the same son who found an ally in McGee Vice Principal Heather Gish when anxiety overtook him during school hours, and tell him that Mrs. Gish will no longer be at school for you and the other at-risk children at McGee because her job was cut. What else is hard? Having to face my daughter, who is only in kindergarten, and having to tell her she won't be able to have the same advantages of other kids her age in neighboring towns who will learn how to navigate working with computers in this digital age because the funding for tech ed and teachers who teach coding and other subjects like that has been cut. What else is hard? Having to explain to my children and other children I see in scouts coaching on the field why their favorite teachers won't be back at school because their jobs were eliminated, that they can't get emotional support as young as in elementary school where they need it because counselors have been cut from those schools. Children's mental health is at a critical state these days. There are so many things out there like social media, video games, that type of thing that are vying for their attention. And we see in the news every day the issues that our children have to go through. To cut allies in the schools like counselors, like assistant principals, like teachers is ridiculous. We need to help them. We cannot hurt them by cutting as much as we need, as much has been said in the budgets for the schools. Please don't eliminate any more funds in the budget. The great Jim Calhoun once said, not a dime back, not another dime back. Please keep it all in the budget. Thank you for your time.
Evelisa Mayette. Do you need me to spell that? 178 Lower Lane. So I obviously live in town, but I grew up in town. I'm also a teacher at Berlin High School. Have an 18-year-old who's in college and a 16-year-old who's a sophomore. So I think a piece that is lost on people who say, don't raise taxes, don't raise taxes, don't raise taxes, is that the education that our children, my own included, had 10 years ago is not the same as what's necessary today. And my biggest fear is that decisions are being made not recognizing that. I get it, it's dollars and cents. I don't want my taxes to go up. We have a tuition bill now that we didn't have before. But I recognize that these kids need services that they didn't need 10 years ago. And so when we continue to cut our school budget, we continue to say that they can do just fine with less. And the reality is, we can't. We have to cut staff. That's just dollars and cents. It's bodies. Everything that we know, just this morning on the Today Show, suicide has become the second largest killer of adolescents. That's astounding. We have little ones who are struggling with things that my kids never struggled with. But it's a reality today. And so the more we don't look at that, and I agree with what he said, we have to sit down and figure this out, because this is exhausting every year to end up in these meetings. It's exhausting. And so I remember the woman last year at the town meeting who said, enough with the party lines, figure it out. We're here a year later, we still haven't figured it out. It's worse than ever. So what's the answer? At some point, y'all have to figure it out. I can't run for office. I'm a town employee. So I'm imploring you to please figure it out. And I will say the other side of this, as a town resident, we're all town residents, it's not just about the Board of Ed budget. It is about our town budget as well. You know, the pools, the library, the senior center, they need money. That's the only way that service is run in a town. So we have to figure it out. So I just really implore you to leave the $500,000 in the Board of Ed budget, to not request that anything happen with ESS. It's almost impossible to keep track of what's happening at any moment in time. And I get it, it's a moving target. But at some point, someone has to take a stand. And I'm just imploring that it be the 7 of you here tonight.
Kim Barber, 30 Timberwood Road. I just want to call out that at the beginning of this meeting, you recognized the Eagle Scout, which I think is fabulous. I have a scout in my house. He's going towards his eagle. But you very specifically called out Matthew's project because as a young student in our community, he recognized the need for an outlet for our veterans. A student. And as an adult, the adults in our community are not recognizing the need for our students to have an outlet. How is that justified? I mean, a student who's under the age of 18 can make it happen. We as an adults have to do the same for our students. Make it happen. It's too important to let these kids go to the wayside.
Let me take this side, go back and forth.
Hi, Tiff House, 30 Main Street, East Berlin. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. An old quote from a person who might have been here when you were. 1758, the way to wealth.
Ouch.
And Franklin. And I was very inspired by what you said. You made it happen. You found the way to take care of what needed to be taken care of. Right now, our knowledge for our children needs to be taken care of. And how's that going to happen if we cut the teachers, we cut the administrators, we cut the sports? Where will they get their knowledge from? How will they be prepared to move forward in our changing and growing world? My daughter cried when she found out that Mrs. Gish is in danger of losing her position. She goes, but Mom, we need her. And she isn't at the middle school yet, but she already gets it. She also cried when she found out she didn't get to make a boat. She also cried when she found out that she was not going to get to do the home ec classes and all those things. Those are important things. My kids don't know. My mom writes all of her cards in cursive. So do a lot of people's parents. I had to teach my kids cursive because it was decided it wasn't important anymore and it didn't fit anymore. And technology took over. And I understand the need to grow and change in that direction, but there's something to be said for making new friends and keeping the old. We need to find the balance and provide for all the kids out there that learn in different ways and give them that knowledge base to take with them, because otherwise they won't stay here. They'll find other places to go, and then there won't be anything here. I'm very disappointed that we don't value education here the way that we should, and that we have a high household income, and yet we're ranking really low on the totem pole as far as how much we give back to our students. $200, it's not that much to give. It's a couple dinners out. Make it happen. You guys can really get on the same page and make it happen for our kids so that my kid doesn't come home crying of the things that she's lost that she never even got a taste of. Thank you.
Imelda Mangelo, 86 Devonshire Way. We've all talked about the what and why we're here. What I wanted to talk about is the how, because I'm not exactly sure how we're going to get there. I was at the special meeting on Monday. It was Monday, right? I think so, yeah. I left there with a lot of hope, because it seemed like the Board of Finance had actually put together a very prudent plan. A plan that was workable, $500K coming back, $95 for the phone system, $178,000 cut to the town budget. We want it all. We want the town to strive. We want the Board of Ed to strive. We want to have all the jobs. It seemed to me, an outsider looking in, that it was a very realistic plan. And I was so hopeful that through that conversation, at least from what I had heard, some of the cuts that were made were based on positions that could not be filled, consultants that were not going to be filled, you know, things that you have to forego. I know it's not easy, but how are we going to get there, and how is it going to be done? Is it going to be short-sighted? Let's figure out and put the Band-Aids of what we can do to make it happen for this year, and then next year we're actually that much further behind because something was not in, it was taken out, it was taken from a different fund that wasn't going to be permanent, and instead of being $500K under, we're going to be that much under. What kind of concessions are being made in order to get to the end result? And are those concessions actually prudent to be able to be made? In other words, are we looking at this from a short-sighted standpoint, or putting in the building blocks so that whatever it is put in place for this year, it's only adding to for next year and not being under from that? How are you going to get it done based on the political lines? You're elected into office based on your party, but once you're in, are you serving that party? Or are you serving the town? Are you serving the Board of Education and what the town really needs? If you're looking at it based on how you were voted into office, is that being short-sighted? If it's not, if it's making a decision that is going against what the town actually needs. I am appealing to each of you from the human element and how you're looking at this. What is the motivation that is driving you to make the decision? Is it the success of the town? Is it the success of the schools? Is it the success of our children? Or is it based on what you're going to get in the short term? It's really needing to look at this bigger picture and what the town actually needs and how we're actually going to get there. There should be cooperation once you're actually in office. Besides party lines, it's about looking at the task at hand and what you need to address. So I do ask that you look at the how and the motivations, and to really take that. It's not an easy step to go against what people are knocking on your door and telling you to do, or calling you and telling you to do. But if it's the right thing, it will prevail, and it will be the right thing, and you will feel a lot better for doing it that way. So please look at the how.
Rhonda Arroyo, 566 Farmington Avenue. First and foremost, I'd like to tell you I grew up here. My all-time favorite teacher passed away this year. I cried. I walked into freshman algebra, and my teacher said, "I am not going to collect your homework. It's your responsibility." That is a lesson I took with me my entire life. The teachers in this town give their all for our students, and the fact that teachers come here every year to fight for their own job is crazy. I don't have to fight for my job. I just go to work, do a good job, and come home. That's it. And I, if we're lucky, get a raise. But I mean, the teachers come here every year to fight. We should not be having this. And then secondly, ESS. This needs to be a program that is put into the budget and stay in the budget and not argue about it every year. To reiterate what Evelisa said, 1.1 million kids are in the emergency room every year attempted suicide. Every 30 seconds, there is a kid in the emergency room who tried to kill themselves. Berlin is not immune to this. We are not, this little bubble where kids aren't upset. It's great for the outside. Everyone wants to think everything's hunky-dory. 55% of kids do not feel comfortable going to their parents to talk about their suicidal thoughts. Without ESS, my daughter probably wouldn't be here. She's graduating this year, hopefully going to be successful. She's going to be a psychiatrist. I don't think she would be where she is without that program. And our kids' lives are vital. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Matthew Tenza, 25 Ridgewood Lane, also president of the Berlin Board of Education. So we'll start with good evening. Let me say I don't envy your positions on the town council. You're about to make difficult decisions regarding the budget that will affect every one of our citizens in some way. But tonight, not surprising, I'm here to talk about the Board of Education budget. I could recap the entire process. I could restate our position that Berlin has not been funding the school budget at an acceptable rate and give you all the pictures and graphs, but I'm going to try to keep this pretty short and simple. Number one, I want to express the Board of Education's dissatisfaction with the budget process regarding capital in building and site. This year, the Board of Education has zero capital to do any building improvements, do the gym floors or anything like that. I don't know how we got there, not sure what happened, but to me that's irresponsible. We submitted, Brian, couple $1 million worth of requests. To be fair, I also want to express our appreciation for working with the Board of Education to strengthen our security group. While security funds continue to be whittled away, referendum after referendum, the fact is we're grateful for the commitment, and we look forward to our security director and 3 security officers to start their tenure in the upcoming school year. So thank you for that and your support. And finally, I urge you to leave the $500,000 reinstated by the Board of Finance fully intact. That means all $500,000. Those funds, as of today, are directly tied to ESS and the middle school athletics. The reason that has come about is on Friday we have received some word that we can no longer pay for ESS out of previous year's funds. Now, you'll hear the mayor later that he's got a different opinion. We've checked around. We have mixed opinions. So as we are today, those funds are directly tied to those two programs. And until the Board of Education can get a written documentation that it's okay to do otherwise, that's the way it is. I cannot back down on that. I also would like to point out that even with the reinstatement of $500,000, not one administrator, not one teacher, not one support person that were announced in the $1.7 million reductions will be reinstated at this point in time. Any reduction to the $500,000 at this point in time will have an immediate impact on the athletics and ESS. It's difficult for me to stand before you and say that. As always, the BOE is committed to providing the best opportunities and educational system for our students. We believe the education system is the biggest asset the town has to offer. And I'll leave you with this. Doing the right thing is usually not doing the easy thing. So do the right thing. Thank you.
Anybody on this side?
110 Elton Road, Min, Fisher, M-I-N, Fisher. A lot of great speeches has been made tonight. I don't even know what I want to say, what I want to add. So I try to be a little bit, accretive. I don't think $500K is enough. I think we should get back that $1 million. Why? We are here today talking about school budget every year, argue about the same thing every year. I sort of blame the Board of Education. I sort of blame the school system because they're doing their job too well. And they give you only 1%, and you go back to scrub everything, and then try to make ends meet. And then people will think, oh, you can work with this low budget. Next year, even though you promised the teachers due to collective bargaining, you need to pay them certain dollar amount. That is contractual, right? Still, they still give you only 1.something%. Okay, they start, the Board of Ed and then the school system started to do a great job again. So everything is fine. And then the newspaper used to say, oh, we sent kids to Harvard this year. We sent kids to Carnegie Mellon this year. And our kids' testing scores are great. So why do we need so much money for the school? Why? Because they're doing too good a job. And then because the newspaper did not report the problems of the school. And each year, the school system tried to, hoping some teachers retire, some teachers move so that they don't have to do the cut. And then last year, they got a little bit more creative because we have a little bit extra capacity, yet that extra capacity does not warrant deep cuts in teachers or increase classroom size. So they brought in 50 students from inner city. I'm not trying to argue whether this is a good move or bad move of diversity, the benefit of diversity, etc. I represent diversity. I'm immigrant, I'm minority. I can say whatever I can, I think. I want to say whatever I want to, Right. So the thing is, when you go to the playground, people complain that there are behavioral issues. My own kid was bullied for 2 years, and they didn't let us know until the end of last year. That problem was corrected a little bit. I do believe, there are benefits of drawing kids from outside of the school district, but I have to say, one of the big motivation is to fill the gap of the budget. I think it's a fair statement. Forget all this political correctness, okay? So if this town does not want to fund the school, the other alternative, guess what? Combined school. It's not, let's not to talk about that because it's Democrats say that, or let's not to make it political. The thing is, in Colchester and Hebron, they do combine the school district, and it's a great cost cutting. For example, we can have one superintendent instead of two, right? But due to our geographic location, it's not likely we are going to combine with West Hartford or Simsbury. Most likely, we're going to combine with New Britain, right? So is it good for our school district? You know, I don't think we are talking about it, not there yet. But if we keep cutting the budget like this every year, eventually, you know, that could be on the table. Or alternatively, you know, because the tax is low, the tax, you know, this town would draw certain type of people, and then the school district is not good. More importantly, people probably could send their kids to all those open choice school, and our town have to pay for it. So I just feel, you know, due to some political, you know, promise during election, we have to hold our tax low. That caused a lot of negative impact to the town. We are even though we are keeping the tax low, we are raising to the bottom. That's how I feel. I seriously think after the budget cut, you know, after getting rid of that $1.something million, I feel like, did I make the right decision to stay in this town? We have been living here since 2001. I just feel every year the school district got incrementally not as good as other towns because other towns put more money in the school district. What I want to say is $500K is really not enough. We have to do better than that. Incrementally, this year probably the Board of Ed asked for 6% increase. Everyone got a shock. Why? Because in the past probably 10 years, we have been giving the school system, you know, subpar percentage increase. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Please do better. I am a registered Democrat. But I am not on the far left. The reason I register as a Democrat is that I want to vote in primary. But I have to disclose today, last time in the mayor election, I voted for you. This is my first time to vote for a Republican. And I hope you do the right thing for the town. And I hope we conduct business in this town in a bipartisan way. And one more thing I want to comment is that the financial committee was formed based on, at the request of this town council. And I believe they conducted business in a very partisan manner. They recommended school budget, but how come this city council does not take, you know, the suggestion, does not take this proposal, even though, you know, it was formed based on the will of this city council? Please don't conduct business in a partisan way. We have enough of Washington. We should do better locally. Thank you very much.
This side, anyone? Yes, sir.
Greg Starr, 59 Hudson Street. You don't want to give me the mic. I listened to everything tonight, and I hope you guys listen, all right? There shouldn't be, first of all, Matt Tenza, thank you. Board of Ed does a great job. ESS, you need to fund the entire program, and you need to fund it at middle school, and you need to fund it at elementary schools, okay? The problem starts there. The sooner you deal with it, the better you're going to be, all right? And even from a capital budget perspective, we put off so much stuff in this town. It's ridiculous. The Board of Finance puts together a decent budget that we should follow, all right? And, you know, every year we go through the same thing, just like everybody else said. But it's about the kids, and it's about Berlin, okay? It's not about being a Democrat. It's not about being a Republican. It's about being a resident in Berlin and being proud to be here, doing the best for your kids and doing best for the people in here. And the squabbling that goes on is ridiculous. Hopefully you guys can do what's best for Berlin and not have it be a political issue. That's it. I'll save that for
Anyone else? All right. So thank you all very much. We'll go ahead and close the
audience of citizens now. And we've been sitting here for a while, and let's, if we could just, we'll definitely take that suggestion and don't need to keep all you folks sitting here, unless you want to sit here through a council meeting. You could see what torture we really go on up here, but we'll get to the budget. Let's just, if we could just go to our consent agenda, just see if we can move that off the table. We have a consent agenda which has 8 different topics. The councilors obviously all received this ahead of time. Generally, most of the things on this consent agenda, folks, is accepting donations, a couple other approvals, but it's all pretty mundane. So councilors have read through it. If we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussions or questions on the consent? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So what I'd like to do, folks, just for a minute.
Add something else to the agenda.
Okay, let's do that. Go ahead.
Would like to make a motion to add
11A.
agenda item 11A into the agenda tonight for the Kensington Congregational Church.
Okay. Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we're going to take, I just would like to take just a 5-minute break if we could, and if anyone needs a break, to walk out or take a break for 1 second, I do need 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and we will go ahead and move the budget. We'll take a motion to move the budget up and talk about it. We'll come back. So we just take 5 minutes of recess. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we're back in session. If we could have a motion to move, it's
Agenda item
top
11.
number 11 up to agenda item.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. So we're here. We're at our budget discussion. So just if I can, and hopefully we'll all speak up here, whatever they want to do. Just to start it off, I certainly appreciate all the input. That's what, as far as I'm concerned, that's what we hope for in our town, is input from our residents. Without that, we do make decisions based upon, hearing from people and emails and phone calls and going door to door the last 2 years in both elections. I obviously gather a lot of information from that. We all do, but we all appreciate the input, and that's what we want to hear, and that's what we need to hear to make our decisions. Just as far as myself goes, born and raised in this town, been here many years, moved away for a while with my job. When it was time to come back to Connecticut, there's one town that my wife and I moved back to was Berlin, okay? So I've been here back 20 years now, but here most of my life. My wife's been here most of her life, her family, my family, on and on and on. So I certainly know Berlin from the old days. Not quite as old as Art, though. Art, I'm sorry, a little bit younger. Not much, getting there. But, so, yeah, always have the best interest of Berlin at heart. That's why I ran for office, to do the right thing. And that's what I believe, at least my time on the council, I have done. And we always, the hard part about this whole process is you're all here tonight, and you all have, what your interests are. And, we go to other meetings in town, like the senior center and businesses and, all the other constituents that make up Berlin. And, we obviously have different sides to the story. I think everybody that we hear from, of course, has the interest of Berlin at heart. It's just everyone has their own interest, and we all understand that up here. Everybody understands that. I think that volunteers, and we try and do the best we can, and I know we all do that. And we have difference of opinions, and that's fine. That's what it's all about. So this year, again, difficult budget year. We've worked very long and hard. I honestly, all of us up here, we all have, other than Peter, who works hard with his grandkids and everything else, we all have full-time jobs. We give up a lot of time. All of us have multiple meetings a week. So we really, I can speak for everyone up here. We all have the best interests of Berlin at heart, and we do give it our all. And as does the Board of Finance, and as do really all the other boards and commissions, because we all interact. You know, we don't just make a decision on the council typically without hearing from other boards and commissions. So everybody does interact, and we try and get to the bottom of whatever decisions we're trying to make, be it monetary or whatever else we have to decide. So this year, obviously, it's been some difficult years. We put a lot of money into the town of Berlin, despite what you may or may not think, just to say that. We put a lot of money in the school system, needed to. Put a lot of money in a lot of other projects in town as well, and there's still obviously more to come. Just a couple things notable to move the town forward. The last couple years, public safety, we needed to do a lot for public safety. When I got my first term, we needed to buy fire trucks, which we did. We needed to, the police radio was 30 years old and broken, beyond repair, where it wasn't the officers responding to your 911 call, sometimes the radio went dead, fixed that. Obviously roads and bridges, you see some of that going on. This year the fire radio system, same problem, 30 years old, didn't work at all on some emergency calls. Had to fix that. So, there's a lot of things we have funded. There's many more things to fund, no doubt about that. But we've tried to, all of us certainly in this council have tried to fund, certainly the important things, the school system, public safety, senior center. We have some work to do there. And, we're trying to do the best we can and balance, I do, and we all do, balance everybody's interests. That's what it's all about, and, that's what we do. So, with that said, I'll let anybody else wants to speak, and then we can go to some numbers and take our vote.
To me, the referendum is very important because it gives everybody in the town a voice. And in that similar respect, I think it's very important that every one of you are actually here too, because it gives you a voice. And in my tenure here at the council, I'm sure you guys can all agree, this is the most people I've ever seen here. So that's a testament to how passionate you are about it, how important it is to you, and how important both sides of the budget are, most specifically from what I'm hearing tonight, the Board of Ed. I'm going to go out on a limb and say up here we all support schools. I know I do. I support teachers. That's why personally I voted to, I think it was a 3-year contract for the teachers that gave them 2% every single year. Me personally, as a state employee, I am taking a 0. And that's not fair, right? That's something I am dealing with. I am not complaining because I have a job and I'm very happy. But I always vowed that if I was in that position, I would make sure that the people who I have, the ability or say over would get their 2%, and I'm proud to say that the teachers are getting their pay increase. In the same respect that you guys are here and speaking to us, I think it's also important to emphasize or hope that everyone here also contact their state rep and state senator and the governor. Year over year, part of the reason we're kind of in this mess is the state of Connecticut's in fiscal mess. And part of the reason we're in this mess is that we get less money year over year from the state of Connecticut to run our government. There's also talks that the towns would have to pay a little bit more money for teacher pensions, and that's all on our backs, and I think that's unacceptable. In the same way the towns need to support their teachers, I think the state needs to support their teachers. So if you want to, in the spirit of working together, make our lives up here easier, contact your state reps and senators and governor and ask that, support your town. So one thing that was important to me since I came on this council was school security. At one of the referendums, I went to Griswold and I went to vote, and it was really cute. All the little kids were there. But what was equally cute, was alarming, was that anyone who went in there to vote was around little kids. And to me, that's very scary because although I consider myself a good guy, there are bad people out there. So that's why the council unanimously voted to have an armed school security guard in conjunction with the Board of Ed and the superintendent. So I'm proud to say that as a town, we're moving forward in that. So that's something we are funding. School's very important to me. I have a child in the school system myself, so the last thing I ever want to do is impede on education, and I believe that that'll reflect in my vote tonight.
Else?
I just want to thank everyone that did come out tonight and speak. We do value your input. As elected officials, we're charged in watching how every dollar is spent. I think that's why we're elected, and we take it very seriously. We're not at all against education. I get it. I understand how important it is. I raised 2 sons. They were in Troop 44 like these boys tonight. They made Eagle Scout. You know, the community supported them, and I want to support the community. They both hold master's degree. In my home, education was number 1, and I think every child is entitled to that. But on the other hand, we need to make sure we're getting what we pay for. And it's not that we want to cut any program, especially for the kids that need it, special help. I'm not an educator. I don't know why we buy copiers, shrink wrap them, and store them in the high school. I don't know why we buy furniture on a bond issue and don't use it. That's not my purview. I'm not an educator. But I think we need to set priorities and make sure every dollar is used wisely and used for the children.
Okay.
Yes, the only thing I want to bring up, as I brought it up here before, that I think, part of the school program that's very important is the extracurricular activities, the sports, the programs. I went to school here. I played sports here. I got hurt here, so I couldn't play anymore. My son set the high school high jump record a couple years ago on the track team. I hope that lasts for another 40 years. We'll see. When I hit McGee, there were no sports. And a lot of people don't know that. It was like that for about 5 years. And I'm not going to sit here and throw people under the bus anymore, but those things happen. And it took a long time to get those things back. The other thing I want to mention is, Department 61, capital and site and budget. The capital site and building history has been a target for years, and it's not just us. I have a whole list going back 10 years. The department heads request a lot of money there, and it always gets reduced. Sometimes some of that stuff gets paid in leftover money, or it got bonded. And, I could go back to 2010. Department heads requested $1.5 million and change. Town manager reduced it to $300,000. Town council approved it at $300,000. I can skip ahead to a couple different years because that was consistent through many years in this town budget. 2014, the town department heads requested over $2 million, $2,083,000. Town manager approved $697,000. The town council approved $165,000. Okay, those were all Democrat years. Now, I'm not saying that to throw darts at you. Okay, we've done it too. Last year we had nothing in that category. It's easy to do. Like I said, sometimes some of those items that are in there get bonded, short-term bonds, try and save some money. They get bonded for larger projects. That's just the thing that happens. It's easier to do that than get rid of people. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we've listened to 4 members of town council who has spoken about the budget and how important education is, and they're the 4 members of the town council who voted to cut the town Board of Education budget. I voted no, and if the Board of Education is cut again by these 4 same members, I will vote no again. Unfortunately, in the minority, our vote doesn't weigh as much as the rest, and it's very upsetting because children are our future. We're not going to get anywhere without our kids and moving them forward. At McGee, my own son, if it wasn't for the assistant principal, he never would have been able to move forward. And, he's a great kid now. At the high school, they got great educations and they're doing wonderfully. But how can we trust our kids knowing that we're going to be cutting the budget again and again and again. It just doesn't work. We have to support our education. And we have to support our town, the police department. We have to support public works. We're not going to get anywhere if all we worry about is what the mill rate is. We need to be able to fund the town at a level that's going to keep it moving forward. And right now it hasn't, and I really apologize to you. I also want to apologize to you that our council started late today. I did ask that it start with our assistant mayor, or whatever his title may be, and that was not taken. It said another couple minutes. So I do apologize that you had to wait 8 minutes for it to start.
Well, I'm just going to reiterate what I've been saying at the multitude of meetings over the last few weeks. You know, first off, I'll always be a proponent of the Board of Ed. As a former Board of Ed member, our kids are, you know, they're a priority. We have an outstanding program of studies. We have important programs that we have to support, one of which is ESS, that we have to put in the budget every year. This, you know, you don't play with kids' lives, and that's what we're doing by taking that or not funding it, quite frankly, not putting it in the budget. You're screwing with kids' lives. You know, as far as the town side, the Board of Finance, once again, was organized. They were put into the town charter as the result of a Republican effort. I've said before that I vigorously campaigned against it. We organized a PAC, some Dems, and we just thought it would be a horrible idea with a 3-3 split, that there would be constant bickering. To my surprise, it turned out to be a great thing. The Board of Finance works tirelessly. They go over this budget line by line by line. They're the ones that meet with the department heads. They're the ones that meet with people and determine what it is that they need, what we need for services, what we need in equipment, what we need, just what we need. And they don't make these decisions lightly. They pour over this budget, and then they bring it to us. And it comes to us, and we deal with it for a few hours. And, you know, once again, in other towns, the Board of Finance, they're the ones that establish the budget. They're the ones that are the experts. They're the ones that are the auditors and the financiers and the accountants. And they, once again, delivered a really, really responsible budget that was cut and should not have been. And they established a 10-year plan, which we're not following. So we're making year by year little, you know, cuts just to do some short and quick fixes, but are not helping us in the long term. You know, all I can say is that what the Board of Finance has proposed, we should accept. We should put that $500K back in and just fund our town properly.
Guess it's me. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. We serve you. Our job is to serve you and respect your wishes. If we don't know what your wishes are, we can't serve you properly. I think it's pretty clear what the wishes here are tonight. Jack Kennedy once said, doing the right thing is simple. Knowing what the right thing is much more difficult. I think by your attendance here tonight, you're telling us what the right thing is. I was born and raised here. I lived, was educated through the Powers years. My uncle's a Republican. He was chairman of the Board of Planning Commission. It was a different time. My want is to say, while education is expensive, ignorance is unaffordable. So I'm going to be with you on the vote tonight, and I hope we can do it as quickly as possible.
We can. All right, thank you for all your comments. So let's if we could just start at the board side. I want to say before we start too.
We'll explain it on the back as I'll let you.
Okay. All right, these are just some different on the town side. I want to say too, before we got here, despite certainly what the Board of Finance does, we're there at a lot of meetings, we go by everything line by line as well, so that's what our job is on the council, so, and that's what we've done. So I spent a bunch of time the last week with Mr. Benigni, Mr. Tenza, a couple members on the Board of Finance, beating this up between us all to cooperate and try and get down to what we needed to do. And we worked out some things, and it's you know, it was a lot of time spent, but it was well worth it to try and work together, which we really want to do, all of our boards and commissions, and which we did do. So I thank Mr. Tenza, Mr. Benigni, and some members of the Board of Finance, different people that I've called and talked to if I had questions, town finance director, town manager. I mean, everybody's involved. We also rely heavily, don't forget, we do have a Board of Finance, they're volunteers too, but we rely on our town finance director. We rely upon our professionals that we employ with the town. That's who directs us through our budget process. And we do question them, and then we obviously, based upon what the voters tell us and what people tell us, we make a judgment call and try and do the best we can. So we're going to look at the town side first, if we could, and we'll look at the. This is the budget dashboard. This is online, by the way, for everyone to follow along throughout the whole budget process as we go through the process over the past few months. That's on the town website. So the finance director. The Board of Finance. They came out of their meeting and sent us a budget that had $178,000 reduced on the town side. That was what they sent back to us, a further reduction of $178,000. We had made some reductions before it went to the first referendum. It goes back around to the whole program again, to the Board of Finance and back to us, and that's why we're here. They made some further reductions, and that also was based upon the vote. I think we had 500 people on that vote. Of the 17% of the people that voted on that particular question, 500 people said the town side budget was too high. We had already made a bunch of reductions, as did the Board of Finance. But here we are back. But in working with the Board of Ed on certain things, so I'd like to add a couple reductions or take some additions that the Board of Finance added back in, but they will be paid for. So just so everybody understands, there's two items that the Board of Finance added back in, which had been reduced prior, which was some repairs to the senior center. We already funded the kitchen that has to be repaired at the senior center. That's already funded. There's $25,000 of repairs to the flooring at the senior center that I want to take out of the budget, but what I want to do is, it is that urgent from my discussions with the town manager and the finance director, that what I want to do is we're going to request some funding this year from our contingency fund, which we have some money left over in, to put that forward. That will go through us to the Board of Finance, and we will get that funded to do those repairs before we even start, hopefully, the next budget year. So we're going to take it out of next year's budget. We're going to keep it in this year's budget because it's an emergency and needs to be fixed. So that's a reduction, but we're going to pay for it out of this year's budget. The other thing that has been brought up, I mean, we've spent a lot of money on security. We've probably funded about $1 million in security to the school system. Nobody wants to have to spend all that money. I mean, we certainly want to keep our children secure, but in the world today, that's what we had to do. And I'd much rather take that $1 million and put it towards ESS or sports or any other program that helps education. But again, if they're not in a safe environment, we know what has happened around the country, around the world. That's what we've done, and that includes some new cameras that are in the budget through a grant, and some other funding. There's some different things, bollards at the high school, the security vestibules are being built, and the armed guard. So,
Mark, just a quick
we'll
question.
get to that. Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
The grant.
For cameras?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's just a couple of concerns about that.
Sure.
One is the way the grant is worded.
Mhm.
If it in fact specifically is for recording devices and, okay.
Yeah, I talked to, the guru there on that was Mr. Richards from the Board of Finance, so we talked today about it, and he sent us a couple emails. So the language is very strange, but we came down to the conclusion that it means cameras and video systems, which is what we need.
Okay.
Yes, we want to tie in all the video systems, the PD needs to be able to watch them, so in the best to our understanding, Brian, and Matt too, it's strangely worded, so John wasn't sure when he emailed the council today about, because we talked about cameras at the Board of Finance the other night, he mentioned it, and we just weren't sure, but we believe it covers that. Right, whatever, right, Brian, if you... Yeah. Right.
Griswold and McGee.
And the grant is not, we don't have the grant money yet, right? Or do we? Phase 3 we do. Okay. I'm sorry, Brian, well, no, you can. You can. Just to the podium. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So explain, you had to explain that because it is confusing with the grant language.
Security grant is not funded solely with town monies. The grant funding is funded at the same rate that the high school is funded, whatever our rate is for reimbursement, somewhere around 43%.
41.
So the town would have to allocate money for the grant, and then the state would then reimburse us at that rate. But as at this point, Phase 4, even though we applied for the grant, it's not been approved. We're not sure when that will be approved. So that means that McGee and Griswold, we would not be able to fund cameras through the grant at this time because the grant's not been approved yet. That's Phase 4.
Do we anticipate when it will be approved?
They're saying in the next calendar year, which, so after July 1, but they did not give us a date.
And how much is it that they would be providing?
43%.
I think the reimbursement is somewhere around 42 or 43% reimbursement on that.
Thanks.
That seems to be then just another reason why we should even keep the funds, or make sure that we properly fund the board, because are we putting this on the town side?
That,
If it was not granted.
Right.
Yeah, it would be.
Right.
Putting children at risk.
Well, but it would be billable to the town. Let's see, yeah, okay, all right.
Don't leave. You're not getting off that easy. So that was the senior center. So I want to get back to the school system. So in our discussions, one of the issues that definitely came up is the phone system, which we recognize that the phone system is at, I always forget which school.
Sure. The phone system at McGee.
I'm sorry.
McGee was replaced last year. We paid for that with board funds because it was $8,000 to fix an antiquated phone system. We had it slated to be replaced. We replaced it. It was around $35,000. The three elementary schools also have antiquated phone systems of roughly $95,000 to replace those. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So in our discussions, we're going to actually reduce that out of this budget, $95,000, but the Board of Ed, in looking at their some year-end funds and some other possible funds they have left over in other accounts, will fund the phone system. So we will fix the phone system. That's a security issue as well. So we will fund that. We're going to take it out of this particular line item, but it will be funded and fixed. So that will be taken care of. Another reduction on the town side. Next, the final one that we discussed quite heavily was school security. That's been kind of, something I've pushed for since day one, and we had a forum a year and a half ago. We've had multiple discussions. We got to where we got, and we got to a good place. So right now we have $300,000. So folks, in the budget, there's this particular line item is Department 61. That's where a lot of the capital projects that the Board of Ed uses. It just happens to be on the town side, but it is projects for their advantage to the Board of Ed for their projects. So on this particular project, we met and we hired we have a security director that we will be hiring. We had might as well tell him, we had one and whatever, he backed out or whatever happened. It was unfortunate, but two great candidates. Thank God we had two. They're both great. We really debated. We interviewed them, myself and Mr. Benigni, and Mr. Tenza, and we really almost flipped a coin at the end who we chose, and the one we chose, of course, naturally had some other issues. So that's all right. We have one that we will hire, and that's very shortly. So he will start the program moving, and then he will be responsible to hire 3 more armed security guards, which will cover the 3 elementary schools that are uncovered now. Obviously, we have an SRO at the McGee, and the chief, I see the deputy chief here, they're committed to keeping the SRO there, and the SRO at the high school, of course, will stay. The security director will be at the high school, and then we have 3 at the 3 elementary schools. And there may be more, at the other 2 schools, but right now. So we're calculating what their salaries will be for a year. Obviously, we haven't even hired the other 3 yet, but we hope to have everybody up and running by September is the goal. So we need 200,000. We have 300,000. We're going to reduce 100,000 out of the town side. If Len, and I'm doing that for the benefit of our finance director, who I kind of spoke to earlier, but kind of based upon our discussions in the last day or 2, that's where some of this came up. So there's some equipment that they need. That will cover the salaries. So they will be paid. They will be hired. They need some equipment. They need firearms. They need radios. They need a few other things. That will be funded out of the Board of Ed, again, with some money that they do have left and some year-end money. There's a 1% account that they can keep. The town would say yes, and there apparently will be some funding in that too. So that would give us a town reduction of, I think if I do the math right, I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician, but Berlin taught me well. I think it's $398,000 and maybe some change there. Okay. So that would be what I would propose we do as the town reduction in our vote tonight. That leaves us with some other funding that we do have in the Board of Ed budget. We've been talking about it, the ESS program, extremely important to all of us. The Board of Ed had a great plan, and they've had that plan for 3 years, like it or not. I think it was a good plan because it got funded. And they had funding to fund it next year, which was going to be paid out of this year's funds. So that would be covered right before the budget year even started. There's a little bit of a debate going on, a healthy debate between attorneys, auditors, whatever. But we're not 100% sure at this point that that particular money can be paid in advance for the ESS program beginning July 1. The latest that I heard from relying on our budget director and our town auditors, and they're the ones that really make the decision. It's really an audit question. It's not a legal question. Bless you. Is that our verbal information is that it can be funded and paid for this year before the end of the year, and we're good through next year. But we'll explore that further to make sure that there's no issues. But our own auditors said yes, so I think we're good on that. So that money has already been transferred into their contracted account from another account where they had some extra funding. So we hope that will be taken care of. And then, so I think we've taken care of, the other thing that we're going to do is there is the classroom at McGee that needs to be retrofitted for the upcoming special needs children that are moving up to McGee. So we're going to, it has to be done before the school year begins, obviously. And we had a price, 1 price, 2 prices, whatever. The price always keeps going up. That's just how it goes. And I think we're at about $190,000 for that classroom. So what we agreed to do is on the town side, and that I can't take credit. That was from Mr. Delaney, our finance director, and Mr. Benigni and Mr. Tenza. We all talked about it. So we're going to take out of this year's, again, we have a contingency fund of funds that are left over from this year that we pretty much have projected what will be in that. We want to take $100,000 of that, obviously give it to begin the construction at McGee, and the Board of Ed will kick in the other 90 or so. They have some money left that they can kick that in. So we'll cover that now. We'll pay for that now. That will get done. And I think that's the only other transfer, right? Anything else that I think we covered Oh, yeah, I mean, there's some other funding we're going to pay out of this year's fund. We need to, not really the school system, but affects everybody that goes to Scalise Field. If you have noted, perhaps as you get older, the stairs are steep, there's no railings, there's no fence in the back, so the bleachers, we need to fix that. And we're going to take some, it's about a $100,000 fix. Some of it makes it ADA compliant, which needs to happen. So we're going to take some money out of that contingency fund as well and fix it this year. So hopefully before the sports season starts. So that's really a separate issue, but just so you know, that's what we're looking to do. Again, for the benefit of all of us that go watch our young people play. That's a separate issue. That really wasn't in the budget. It's just something we're going to try and fix going forward. That leaves us with our operating account for the Board of Ed, which is all, and we certainly know the figure. Remember that we did reduce it by $400,000 and went to the referendum. That was a $900,000 increase, and we reduced it. The votes came in. We absolutely do listen to the vote. I mean, that's one of the things I always talk about. The vote is the vote. I mean, and we wish more people got out and voted. We had 17% come out. That's pretty good for a referendum. And if you look at the votes, yeah, it was down the middle, but 13 votes voted higher, put more money in the Board of Ed. So, you know, that's our direction. Just like we had 500 votes say reduce the town side. That's why we just reduced it some more. So my proposal would be, if, you know, we heard it, we heard from you, is that we obviously restore the $500K to the Board of Ed budget. That's 100 more than we had reduced. That's what came back from the Board of Finance. And, you know, again, in discussions to work all this out and make sure everything's paid for, that's why we're here. And we really worked hard, you know, myself and Mr. Benigni and Mr. Tenza to figure this out and do what was best for everyone, knowing what we're facing in the town and the town side budget and just the whole budget in general. But, you know, we all came to that conclusion. That's what was needed. So that's where we're at. That's my proposal, but we'd have to make a motion, but I just kind of threw all those figures out there. I'm one vote. I'm just one vote. So whatever you all want. Yeah.
No,
Whatever you want. Stay.
We have a couple questions.
Stay.
So, Brian, about the $95,000 for the schools, for the phones, where are you going to find that money?
Those monies would come from end of the year monies that we'd have as we pay.
You're ensuring that that will be done.
That will be done before July 1st. That will move into place, take place, yes. That's been slated for 2 years. It's been last year and this year for those phones to take place.
Okay. And how about the equipment to arm the guards? First of all, how much is it? What is the cost?
The cost probably, if we're talking four. I mean, got to purchase firearms. I don't know, probably $500 per firearm. Probably some body armor at the tune of what, $800 or so for a vest. Chief, is that about right? I think from what I recall from my law enforcement days, pretty good vest, maybe 1,000 by now. Radios and phones, I'm sure, cell phones. Not sure what other equipment they really need. Probably uniforms too. Yeah, right, uniforms. I think will cover that particular equipment for the personnel. Mm-hmm. And that's all that money was ever for. So whatever that rough estimate came out to be, we kicked that around, and that was part of the discussion that would come out of their year-end funding. So
and you're also ensuring, Brian, that will be funded?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will be funded by September 1?
The hope is to fund by September 1, definitely, by the time they're in place. Whenever they're in place, they're going to have the right equipment. That's the guarantee, yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Kevin?
Yeah, so, okay, anything, while you're up here, any other questions for Brian while he's up here? Yes.
The ESS program, we're going to fund it from this year's funds for next year.
We're going to fund that, as you heard Mr. Tenza, we're going to fund that in the operational budget with the $500,000.
Okay, so
that was always the original intent. To fund it was in the operational budget. As many people said, we believe it belongs in the operational budget. But every year with the cuts, we've had no choice but to move it outside. and then fund it that way. The issue was that, yes, the money was moved to ensure the funding for the end of the year. The issue now is we have conflicting reports on whether we can continually to fund at the end of the year. We have some people saying it's okay. We have others giving us advice that it's not. We don't have a clean answer, to be totally candid with you. Yet that we've reached out to, both of us have reached out to the people we feel we can trust the most to get that answer, and there's conflicting reports, to be candid.
So this ESS will be a line item budget going forward?
Yes, it would be funded. It would be funded with in the operational budget for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, also, are you happy with what we're seeing here?
I am, as I said to Mark, and I'll be brief, but, my message was simply to give the data to show where Berlin's been funded over the last 5 years and to let you know that that number is not adequate to sustain, never mind move forward, because we're constantly carving out. These cuts that are still in place for this year, we will average 5 teachers a year for the last 6 years. We'll average 0.5 administrators a year for the last 6 years. We'll average half a secretary a year for the last. There's people that have been here 18 years are losing their jobs. So for my short-term 18 months as a superintendent the last 2 years, I've had to tell over 10 people that they've had to lose their jobs, as well as having, you said this was the most that you've ever seen in this room. I've had every volunteer fireman when I cut the course last year in there telling me not to cut the course. So the decisions that have been made on the Board of Education for someone who's been in the district 27 years have been very difficult. And I'm here to tell you that if you want the quality education, I'm going to do the best I can with what you give me. But if you want to keep moving forward and keep Berlin the same district that I came into 27 years ago, that was respected throughout the state, and you have a high school that is on its way to be second to none, you can't keep giving us less than what other towns are getting. You just can't. And we're not asking to be the most. We're not asking, but we can't. To have comparable towns to Berlin be funded so much more for education, we just can't continually sustain that. And it's the operational, and this year is going to be different, hopefully, Mark, and it's back to the number that was years ago. And we had the conversation that a different party in power that last year was out in the ones also. We talked about that. But before that, it was around 3.
And now with this.
We're going to be back to where it was.
Well,
yes.
okay.
Absolutely.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
I would like to have Kevin up.
Okay, so
Kevin.
Kevin, being summoned. We have a question.
Yes.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
So I have a question.
Finance Director Kevin Delaney, if you don't know, I'm sorry.
So I have a question on the email here from you. Actually, I do have 2 questions, one not related to the email. But I noticed you're reducing the VNA consultant, which is $40,000. But then you're also reducing VNA revenue. Is it because you want to make it equal?
Well, first, to be clear, those are Board of Finance actions, not mine.
Okay.
I just put the dashboard together.
Okay.
Those aren't my cuts. I don't make a single cut or take a single vote.
Okay.
They were not done, the board didn't put them in concert, but they did take the vote simultaneously. So I mean, it was a board decision to do. I guess I can't speak for what was in the mind of the 6 members. They removed the consultant because in their view, or based on the comments that were made, that was going to be under the direction of the town manager and driven that way. And with our town manager departing and the uncertainty and a likely interim, the feeling was that that role would likely not be filled and would likely not achieve the objective. So therefore, it was not worth asking people to pay taxes to fund it. Similarly, there was also concerns that the town manager has been heavily involved in many of the positive indications that we've been seeing of recent in the VNA, and that helped drive the idea of increasing the revenue, increasing the target, so to speak, for the VNA. And so the consultant was designed to identify areas that might further that benefit, and not having the consultant in there seems logical to also question whether the revenue could be supported.
Okay. And my other question was about the contingency fund. With these items coming out of that, what's your thought on that?
My thought is that the contingency account exists to cover unanticipated costs. Typically, when somebody hears of the contingency fund, they think we had a really bad winter, plowed a lot, and the costs were higher. And that is one instance, and actually, your last meeting, you approved, and then the Board of Finance approved, some transfers to cover overtime for workers and salt and some other things that were needed. But there are other things that come up. The town manager and I and a couple of other people were called to a meeting from our Parks and Rec director and our foreman of grounds to show us some pictures and talk through what was going on with the bleachers at Scalise. And it was prompted by, I think it was believed, was Councilor Rosso brought up the railings and how it's difficult sometimes to get up and down without the railings. But as they dove deeper, I'm sorry to say, I didn't even pay attention to bleachers anywhere where I was. There are railings, but there are no fencing, fabric basically, on the back, the sides, and the front. But the back, especially on the high bleachers. If you were to look down the back, there's a fence right there to prevent people from going underneath the bleachers. You take that to the worst case scenario, somebody falls off, lands on a fence, it's not a good ending. So, that while it should have been addressed probably many years ago, the bleachers aren't brand new, we're aware of it. And I would say that that's something that we viewed as something that needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. I would think contingency funds are appropriate use there as well. I think everything that's on the list are things that should be funded as quickly as possible. To the extent you would elect not to approve the transfer from contingency to the accounts or funds to handle these projects, or if the Board of Finance elects not to, that money will go to fund balance. It would fall back down or would offset other higher costs. That's an option. I'm your finance person, so I will ask you for the biggest fund balance possible. But I think that would be irresponsible if you have safety issues that can be funded, can be addressed, and can be fixed. That's a better use of the town's resources.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Anybody else for Kevin while he's up there?
So what does that leave in contingency? What's the balance, right?
When all of these are done, it will probably leave in the neighborhood of about $7,000 to $10,000.
Really?
But in the process, you will have covered overtime costs related to the winter. You will have covered costs related to a long-term absence from one of our department heads who had to be covered by an assistant, and that was not budgeted, but was necessary. You will have fixed a critical safety issue and provided better quality for those who go up and down the stairs at Scalise on both sides. You will have contributed half the cost, with the board contributing the other half, for a classroom that's essential. Putting that funding here versus another way, the intent is to be able to move the process along quicker, to provide the greatest opportunity for that room to be available for the kids who need it and the teachers who work in it when school opens. I can't guarantee that will happen. I'm not the construction guy, but using budget dollars like this and transferring it means you can start the work earlier in the process. I'm trying to think through my head of what the other items are.
Is that a concern to you, that the balance is so low?
No, that is a particular account in the budget every year. And if you were to look in Department 07, you will see that we're asking for $300,000. We ask for that every year. It is actually a prudent financial practice. We have so many moving pieces in the budget, and so many things can go unexpectedly wrong, whether it's a bad winter, or whether it's things like this, or a truck that breaks down. This provides some level of resources should something go unexpected. We do our best to try to predict as much as possible, but the reality is you have 1 million square feet of office space or of space, of building space in the town. You have 110 miles of roads. There's, I believe it's somewhere around 20 to 30 bridges, culverts, etc. You have numerous fields. Any of that stuff can go wrong. Any of that can require additional funding. So we ask for that every year. I think it's necessary every year.
To the extent that it isn't needed, it would go to fund balance. And I will point out that this budget, and the Board of Finance did debate it, the budget also includes $1 million to offset, of fund balance appropriated to offset the mill rate increase. So while I say it goes to fund balance, it's not intended to just sit there in a bank account as long as we want. We do pull that money out, but I think at this stage in the year, with the weather, with other conditions, it's a prudent use of the money, and it addresses some critical needs.
Anything else? Thanks. Thank you. What else? Any questions from counselors, anything? You want to put that? So I went through all that, folks. We have to go through that to line item everything on the town side. Obviously, the Board of Ed is a little bit different because we don't line item them. We just give them a whole amount. So obviously, the amount that we would put back in is what I mentioned. So we're done with questions or comments. We can go ahead and move a motion with, yes.
Do we have,
Yes.
we just hit with this, can we have
Yes.
5 minutes to
Absolutely.
discuss it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back and we'll vote, and we'll move on to the rest of our agenda. Sorry, folks. But just so you guys know, this is what we go through, it's a process. So we're here, you've heard what the proposal is. I guess we'll put a motion on the floor with what has been discussed, and we'll take the vote.
I'll start with the Board of Ed first. I make a motion to push to the second referendum the Board of Ed budget of $44,977,844 is unchanged from the last referendum.
Second.
No, it's up,
Wait,
it's
increased.
500, yeah.
I'm sorry, it's increased by 500,000, sorry.
Oops, try to slip that in on you. You caught it, though, huh? You caught it. Very good. You guys are very slick. We appreciate that.
I second.
Yeah, second that one, the second statement. All right, thank you very much.
That's corrected.
Discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The town motion, which we'll do a couple line items in there just to get through it.
I make a motion to reduce the town side of the budget of $25,000 for the senior center repairs as discussed.
We need to vote on each one, Kate, or no?
Do, don't we?
Vote on each one? Motion. Do we have to? I'd just do a total, but we'll
Okay, I'll do the total.
delineate the total? Yeah, delineate the total.
Okay. I'll make a motion to push forward the town side of the budget, the general government, at $45,214,070.
And that's
That's with the reductions as discussed.
Need an amount? The amount.
The first one was $25,000 reduction for the senior center repairs. Sorry, this is very tiny printing. A $95,000 reduction for the elementary school phones and a $100,000 reduction in the school security guards.
And the reduction that the Board of Finance already took which was 178,000, Len?
That's included.
And change. Okay, that's included. Sure, for the record.
178,840, right?
What's the total reduction? 178,840. And what's the total reduction with all that in, just so we have it for the?
I do have it.
398,840.
Okay. So that's included in the motion for the town side. So we have a motion on that? We have a second?
Second.
Second, and discussion.
I just think we're not funding our town adequately.
Okay, thank you. Listening to the voters. That's what we talked about earlier. On one side of the budget, we had a lot of voters. On the other side, we're just trying to listen to the voters, but understandable. Any other comments before we vote? Hearing none, all is in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So moved. Thank you. Okay, there's your budget for next year. Remember, it's going to another referendum, but
May 28th.
Don't send it back. It's gonna come, so what happened, just so you know. So it's gonna come back. It just comes back to us. It doesn't go through the whole process, and vote. Listen, I always want to listen to the voters, but we've all put in a lot of work, and so it will come back, and we will vote on it one final time, then it will go to the Board of Finance for the mill rate, to set the mill rate. Yes, sir.
I think it would be appropriate if we had a vote of confidence, and thank you for the town manager for the so well.
Oh, yeah, that was coming, yes, yes. You beat me to it, but it's coming, yes, yes. Good, I'm glad you did, Art.
Well, 2.5 is town manager, 3.5 total.
Yes. Yes, we will recognize him, probably at the next meeting. We had a lot to do tonight, but this is his last official meeting as the town manager. And, that was, before you left, that was my next, you took the words out of my mouth, but thank you, Art, I appreciate it, always the elder statesman. Jack's done a lot. We appreciate his hard work. He's moving on, but we did kind of work him to death. That's what happens with the town managers. It's a difficult position, a difficult time in our history with funding, and that's all the way around. So we thank you for all the hard work and for your support for the town of Berlin.
Thanks.
Thank you. You guys can stay for the rest of the meeting. It's only another couple hours. What do you think?
Can I tell a Jack story?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
This includes Doug Solik and, you can go, you don't have to listen to me. Doug Solik and Stephen Wood. Last Friday night, we had a hardball game at the Zipadelli Field. And once it got dark, it was dangerous out in center field and left field because the lights, 7 of the 11 lights on one bank were gone. I called Jack, I texted Jack late on Friday night when he was having beverages, and by Monday he had Steve Wood up there with a crane, and I know it went through Doug Solik, and the lights were repaired by noon on Monday. We played last night. We had a rain delay, but we were there. We played under the lights, and everything went well. So thank you, Jack. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Doug.
All right, yeah. Yeah. Can we steal your Democrat water?
I don't know. Be careful.
Yeah, let me.
Oh, wait a minute. Over here, right here.
Very careful.
I'm good.
Oops, trip.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, gosh.
I'm good.
Thank you, Sarah. That's good. Thank you.
Never gone through a pitcher of water before.
Yep. It's a hot one.
All right, next.
All right, next,
Got
moving.
some, so thank you.
folks. Yes, please. Let's go.
Let's get going so we can get going home.
Actually, since
Maybe catch the last inning of the Red Sox game.
Yeah, that probably ain't happening tonight, Jack. That's all right.
Peter doesn't care.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Anyway, agenda item number 1 is to appropriate $5,753 to the Child and Youth Services revenue account. This is what you had the meeting earlier for, and this is just so that we can move that money and make it available. I talked to Doug Truitt today, and they use that money in general for just youth services and any of the programs that they have.
Sounds good. Thank you. Take a motion on this?
Okay, move to appropriate $5,753 to the Child and Youth Services revenue account and to the Youth Grant Expenditure account.
Second.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion carries.
Agenda item number 2 is for a new software system for the police, and Chris Soucy's here to go over the details.
Welcome, Chief.
I think this is going to be an easy one for you. This is the operational software. It involves a contract for the operational software down at the police department, everything we do. We've been with our current vendor for 25 years. The platform we're on now is no longer supported, so we're faced with a decision of upgrading to their latest solution or finding another alternative. We found another alternative that we think is superior, and the bonus is over the next 5 years, it'll save the town about $77,000, and then after the 5-year period, our maintenance costs will be about $30,000 less. So this one, if you have any questions, I'll answer. I know at least one member of the council is familiar with it, so we're looking forward to move on this, and have the town manager execute that contract.
Thank you. Go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, move to authorize the town manager to execute a 5-year contract with NextGen for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of NextGen's LEAS solution for the police department in an amount not to exceed $288,445.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved, motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Okay,
Thanks for saving us some money.
Agenda item number 3 is a revision to the contract for Laredo Engineering. They provide the environmental consulting service for 889. That's the piece of property that's part of the TOD project. It's the one that the town had taken possession of. We took possession of a contaminated piece of property, so we have to do some work on it. And I just realized I've had the people from Laredo sitting here for 2.5 hours.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
But Chris is here to discuss it, and our consultants from Laredo are here to answer any of your questions if you have any.
Yes, thank you, Jack. Chris Edge, 240 Kensington Road. Yes, essentially what this is using the grant money from DECD that we've had for a while now, essentially to put together the plan to cap the site at 89. Essentially, it's the contamination that the manufacturer had put in the ground. The cap itself will allow Newport Group to put the footings in as well as build the development on the property. Essentially, it's continuing their work that they've been doing with us, but really taking the next step, which is spending the money as well as getting everything through DEP to make sure every step we're taking is both proper and what we need to do to get this new development on the site.
And we do have the representative from Laredo here if you would want to have them discuss anything with you.
Okay. We've read through their proposal. Any questions from the council? No.
Thank you for patiently waiting. I apologize. I hope you're not
Yeah.
billing by the hour, because this will probably be higher. But
All right, so hearing no questions, we'll take a motion.
Okay, move to waive the town's bidding process and to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract amendment with Laredo Engineering for work including preparation of plans and specs for the concrete removal and cap, construction administration, and post-closure reporting for a fee not to exceed $107,129, subject to the review and approval of the proposal and a project budget amendment by the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development.
second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item number 4 is to
Thank you. Thank you. Long wait. Sorry again.
a
Sorry.
request of the town council to approve a tax abatement for 40 New Park Drive. It's for Budney Industries. They've been here quite a while, and they're looking to expand their business. Chris is here to answer any questions about the request.
I'll just mention briefly, yes, so Budney Industries, if you're going down New Park Drive, they're on the right-hand side. Essentially, they have been the building to the right as well as leasing part of the building right along the road, adding another 8,400 square feet, adding some employees, and probably about $750,000 in equipment. Essentially, this goes with our 3-year tax abatement as they're spending just shy of $1 million. But again, local company, good jobs, and continue to invest here in Berlin.
Awesome.
That's great, Chris. That's phenomenal to hear, and more expansion's great. So go ahead and take a motion on this.
Okay, move to approve a tax abatement for 40 New Park Drive LLC for the construction of an 8,425 square foot expansion of 50% in year 1, 40% in year 2, and 30% in year 3 per the town's tax abatement policy.
Second.
Any further questions? Yes,
Does
sir.
the abatement apply to the personal property as well as the real estate building?
No, it is just the real estate.
Building, I believe.
Just the real estate, yes.
Any questions?
Nope.
Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Agenda item number 5 is a request to waive the bidding process for creative recreation. We use those in the repair and construction of our playgrounds. They're a certified firm. Steve Wood is here for our Parks and Grounds Department to discuss the request.
I'm hoping to expedite this the same way everybody else has.
Yes.
'Cause our playgrounds most of them that were installed by Creative Recreations and Miracle Playground Equipment in 1995, so they're all about 25 years old. We have a lot of them that are starting to fail, slides are starting to crack, and it's getting harder and harder to find replacement parts. And everybody does it in the lean manufacturing where they'll pull up the old records, they'll build it for specs for that place. And we had to replace 2 slides this year already at Willard, and between both of them was like $8,200. We have to replace a swing as well, which is going to put us over the $10,000. So we're just trying to look advance of next year of just having to be able to pick up the phone, call Miracle. They're already Miracle Playgrounds, replace the parts that are broken, and primarily deal with them.
Okay, great. Any questions? Take a motion?
Okay, move to waive the bidding requirements for maintenance and replacement of playground equipment and approve hiring Creative Recreation for a total amount not to exceed $25,000 for the fiscal year 2019-2020, since this is in the best interest of the town.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Yeah, maybe stay there, Steve. Agenda item number 6. As you know, you funded the cemetery committee with $5,000. We've picked up a grant, and we've also picked up some other funds recently. But Kate has been our contact with the cemetery committee, and we've got a group together now that are trying to do good things. Start to put some money into the cemeteries, clean them up. With that, there's some questions about some of the cemeteries we were maintaining, but they aren't town cemeteries. And I think Kate and Steve Wood can explain better what we're doing there.
So we have two small sections, one at Maple Cemetery and one at Wilcox Cemetery, that nobody has been buried in there in probably close to 100 years. And what's involved in is there's 14 mowings a year, a fall cleanup and a spring cleanup. And combined, it comes to right around $2,400 that we've been paying a contractor to come in and take care of. Just like most of the other cemeteries throughout town, once they become full, the town takes over ownership and responsibility of them, and we maintain them. Just these two small portions we didn't know belonged still to the cemetery, Wilcox and Maple.
There's been a gentleman's agreement to help these two cemeteries with the old sections. And that's exactly what Steve is referring to. So is to respect the people that have been there and been part of our history in the town of Berlin, and to make sure that they're maintained correctly. All right. But because it's been done for 10 years,
10,
we
15
don't even
years,
know
yeah.
how long, we wanted to, once we looked at this and everything, I wanted to make sure the council was aware of it, because it is private cemeteries. But it is because it's the oldest part of the cemeteries and with the most history.
Who owns them?
I'm sorry?
Who owns the cemetery?
It's owned privately by these associations, whether it's Maple or Wilcox. But they're difficult to get into.
They maintain a new section of the cemetery?
Yes, the rest of the sections they maintain.
They maintain the current sections that they are still selling parcels of property for people to be buried.
Okay, we'll take a motion.
Move to authorize the mowing and general cleanup assistance to the old sections of Maple and Wilcox cemeteries.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yes,
How
yes.
long what's the durational period of this? Is it just until the next year's council? Is it just,
Yes, because the contract will be up in September of
The
this year.
contract expires the end of November of this year,
Okay.
and we'll go out to bid.
And at that point, then, when they come back for the contract renewal, it will be included. So that way the new council also knows what's going on. Okay.
Thank you.
We felt it was important to support the cemeteries, it's your history. And what we found when last year when you funded it was that many of these cemeteries are being neglected, and they weren't, the trees were not in repair, the fences were falling down. So I know $5,000 doesn't sound like much, but it's getting a lot of stuff done. But mostly it's getting attention paid to them. So we're understanding the ownership, we're understanding how they're being maintained. So I think you'll see an improvement over the next few years in the maintenance of the cemeteries.
And just so you know, we've worked with Public Works and with Public Grounds, and Steve is now coming to most of our meetings. So it's been huge, because when we did the walkthrough on the cemeteries and everything, he was able to then address a lot of the issues, through our grounds crew. So it's been a great committee, and they really are very passionate. So we're happy you resurrected them.
Good one, Kate.
Wow.
cemetery humor.
Wow, nice.
You were just dying to get that one out.
I was.
Wow.
Rim shot, bing.
Wow.
Nice.
That's what we do here on the
Have a lot
council. We
more
have
of
that
those.
power, I guess. I don't know how that happens, but. Okay, so what do we have? We have a,
A vote, did you vote on?
we take the vote?
Yes.
Wait a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Number 7.
Moved, oh, it's just going right to the motion.
Sure.
Let's hear
Let Jack read
Let's
it,
hear what it's about.
I'll just tell you, number 7 is a bid waiver for a purchase order to Hartford Elevator. You go up and down the elevator here, it's getting old, we need to repair it so it's safe for you. Doug Solig's here is to discuss if you have any questions about it, but I would recommend you would approve this one.
Good.
Okay, we'll take a,
Okay, move to
motion.
approve a bid waiver and authorize the town manager to increase purchase order 190237 for Hartford Elevator LLC in an amount not to exceed $15,000 for fiscal year 2019, since this is in the best interest of the town.
second on that?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item number 8 is for Public Works. Cardinal Engineering is working on 2 different bridges for the town, Burnham Street and High Road structures. High Road is almost done. The last thing is they have to put the line striping down there. Burnham Street is, as you see, is under construction, and I believe, talking to Mike today, they're pretty much on schedule. Anyway, they need to increase their contracts, and so Mike Ahern is here tonight to explain why.
This is actually a 2-bridge project. It's through the state local bridge program. 47% of the construction costs and engineering costs are actually funded by the state, reimbursed through the state. Cardinal Engineering actually did the design for both bridges. This thing started in 2015. It's the Burnham Street and High Road bridges. The High Road bridge they just had the overlay done 2 weeks ago. It just needs to be striped and it's done. So that'll be a closeout put through Cardinal. And then Burnham Street has just started, and it's actually, the contract is moving along very well. The original contract with Cardinal didn't really have construction administration full-time for either bridge. So over time, the contract has subsequently been amended several times. We're asking for the last amendment of, an increase of $160,700 so that we can cover the remaining administration costs for High Road, and also for the full-time construction administration this summer of the Burnham Street Bridge.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Hearing none, take a motion.
Move to authorize the town manager to increase contract agreement 2015-50 with Cardinal Engineering Associates, Inc. of Meriden, Connecticut, and allow the town manager to enter into a change orders, if necessary, to an amount not to exceed $455,700.
Second.
Further questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item number 9 is requesting your approval of the Berlin Middle Management contract. It's time for their contract expires June 30th of this year. A team of the town management, Denise Parsons, myself, and Kevin Delaney, negotiated with their union representation. We were able to do that this year without using attorneys, nothing, and we were able to keep it relatively simple. Denise is here to go over the details, and I think she will point out there's a typo in this motion.
Got it.
Yes, so when you make the motion, let's do it for 2022, yes.
2022. Okay. So like Jack said, these were off-the-record negotiations. We started back in March. Matt Odishu, the union president, approached us hoping that we could do something without them having to use their labor attorney as well as us. We had some very good conversations over a period of 2 months, and I think we've come to conclusion with a very strong contract. We've got some corrections that we were looking for from the town perspective. We stayed the same with the salary increases for this group as we have done with the last 4 contracts that we put in front of you. But the major pieces that we've changed, expediting vacation benefits for new hires. This was a town proposal. Currently, in the mid-manager's contract, we hire you in. We expect you to be coming to us with some professional experience, and you've been working for quite a while, and you can't have vacation from us sometimes as much as a year and a half from your start date. We tried to do an MOU with the union mid-contract, and their attorney was not willing to talk to us about that. We actually had some issues with some of our new hires who were reluctant to take positions because they didn't want to come to a job and not be able to take time off for a year and a half. So we did get them to concede to that, and so now we have a much better vacation policy for new hires. We prorated personal and floating holidays for new hires, so right now there was no language in the contract to do that. So somebody could be hired in June and they would get the full allotment of personal time and floating holidays, and they would have had to use it that first month because they don't roll over. So we've cleaned up a lot of that language just specific to new hires. The defining compensatory time off for exempt staff working programs outside of regular hours, this was really specific to a couple of departments that have programs on weekends. You'll see our Parks and Recs will have a fishing derby, an Easter egg hunt, a Halloween thing where our Parks and Rec person is working Saturday, Sunday. And there was no language in the contract that allowed her to then take compensatory time off in the week during her regular schedule. The language used to be there several contracts ago. It went away, and we were just looking to correct that. Both the union and the town thought that was the fair thing to do. The capping of the vacation payout, this is language in the contract that I don't think has actually been used. Maybe once or twice in the 10 years I've been here, somebody has requested to be paid out for vacation time they were unable to use, but there were no parameters around what that meant. There was no limit to what they could ask for. So this was really a town proposal to try and clean up and lock in a number so that we could budget for it on an annual basis if we had to. Again, anybody getting vacation payout is still at the manager's discretion, and he can say yes or no without any kind of grievance. And then we talked about the wages. The tuition reimbursement language, there was language in the contract. There was no cap on it, so this was a town proposal just to put a stopgap so we can budget the $4,000 every year. We don't have somebody coming to ask for it, and we haven't budgeted, and we have to comply with the contract. The final one, this contract historically has had 21 salary steps for mid-managers. So they start at right now they start at step 3 and they go all the way up to step 21. So it takes them about 19 years to get from the starting to the stop. What that has really done from the town's perspective is lower our starting rate for these managers we're hiring in. And we have really been struggling with new hires coming in, making significantly less than where they should be market value-wise. So we were really looking to kind of reduce those steps down. So over the 3-year period, we've eliminated 5 steps. We're starting with step 3 in the first year, so it's not impacting us financially. There's nobody that will have to be moved. Step 4 is in the second year, and there's a couple of middle-level steps that will eliminate each of those years. There wasn't a big financial impact in doing that because there weren't a lot of people in those steps that were being changed over. And we really think this is going to help us with our hiring and our long-term goal of keeping our staff here because they'll be getting closer to the top steps sooner. So that's the major changes in the contract. We think this is a fair contract. We worked hard to save money by not using attorneys, and I think we were able to do that. And that's what we're here presenting to you tonight.
Excellent.
You're satisfied with this?
I am. Oh, Gail's position, there was a position that got increased through the contract. So with Gail Erickson, there's a promotion there for her to go to an assistant director of finance.
My wife in a senior?
No. You're good.
Okay, any other questions for Denise? Thanks for all your hard work. I know this is never fun, get through these contracts, so appreciate you taking all your extra time to do it. And we have another for the questions. We'll take a motion.
Okay, I move to approve the contract between the Town of Berlin and the Berlin Middle Management Association for the period of July 1st, 2019 through July 30th, 2022.
Second on that?
22. Oh, that's the typo. Or second.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Agenda item number 10 is to request your support for two applications to acquire funds through the Neighborhood Assistance Act tax credit program. That provides tax credits to business firms who invest in local charities and nonprofit agencies. This year we have 2 applications which are being supported by our Social Services Department. One is the Junior Achievement Program of Southwest New England. They're requesting $10,000 for the Neighborhood Assistance Program to be used to help train people for the skills for to become workers and entering the workplace because they feel that there's, right now with the unemployment at a low, people are struggling to find the right individuals, and we feel that they felt that they could help train more individuals to go into the workforce. The second one is from the Berlin Land Trust. Their acquisition fund is down to $3,000. They're requesting $20,000 to replenish the fund. And in order to have anybody approved, the municipality must support it. They're one of the two firms, along with the Department of Revenue Services from the state of Connecticut. So we're requesting your support tonight.
Okay. All right, we'll take a motion if there's no other
Okay,
questions.
move to support the proposals of Junior Achievement of Southwest New England, Inc. and the Berlin Land Trust, Inc. for the 2019 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act Tax Credit Program, and approve the setting of a public hearing for Tuesday, June 4th, 2019 at 7 p.m. to discuss the proposals of Junior Achievement of Southwest New England, Inc. and the Berlin Land Trust, Inc. for the 2019 Connecticut NAA Tax Credit Program, and to solicit citizen input.
Second on that.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moved. And
Okay, agenda item 11A.
I have to
we're going to do that second.
Oh, second, I'm sorry.
move to designate Jack Haley, town manager, the liaison for the town of Berlin to handle all neighborhood assistance matters.
Second.
I have a question.
Yeah, I know, I know, right, I know, so,
Jack unfortunately is leaving, so
short term.
do we need to do this now, or
We
can
wait?
we table it?
Or did we let the first
You
motion?
can do either one, whatever you want to do. And I don't know how fast this goes along with the next meeting, but you have further into the agenda after executive session, if you do select somebody for the interim, to then designate any authority that you have given to Jack to that person. If you wait and you don't designate somebody tonight as interim town manager, you're going to have to do something very quickly because, especially with signing the checks and everything else, that has to be done almost right away. So you would have to decide on a meeting somewhere to designate somebody.
Gotcha.
Even if you don't do it right now.
So, should we not do this second motion, or just do it, and
Anything
obviously,
that's due
is
immediately
it due before
with
he
the
leaves?
Neighborhood.
Send it in before he leaves? We could always change,
It's not
obviously,
a
the person.
Public hearing till this 4th.
We do it, and then when we select
Well, that's what I was saying.
replacement, we can just give all his authority.
Exactly, that's what on the agenda later, or whenever you do it.
That makes sense?
It's
I think
okay?
it's fine because whenever, whether it's tonight or at a special meeting prior to the end of the month, any authority that's been granted to the town manager by the council in your resolution, you're going to give to the interim, so
Okay, then I'm okay
I
with
think
it.
you'll be okay.
Did we read it in second?
did.
We did, okay, so, any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
I'll do 11A. This is a request for a fee waiver. Kensington Congregational Church annually has the Festival on the Hill, and annually they request a fee waiver. This year, it's an approximate of $2,754 for police and other fees that they have, that they incur, and they request a waiver. They meet all the criteria. They are a nonprofit and a nonprofit group for the town that substantially contributes to the town. So in the past, you've approved this.
Yes, I'm sorry, Gwen, that you picked a bad night to be here, but maybe you enjoyed it, I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure it was. So I'm sorry, it took a lot longer than it normally would have.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah.
Okay.
So,
problem with this.
now, we've done it before, and the festival, your festival has grown incredibly over the years, right? From a real small just a little bit of food, and it's great. So it's a great community event. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, move to approve the request of the Kensington Congregational Church to waive all fees associated with having Berlin Police support at their 6th annual Festival on the Hill event and road race on Percival Avenue, Saturday, June 8th, 2019, The approximate fee to be waived is $2,754.
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions?
9 was missing.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Congratulations. You can stay longer now if you want. Yeah. No, they're not very comfortable. Thanks. All right, so we are, where are we at now?
Town manager.
Town manager discussion, yes.
All right. I gave you all a copy of this report. I'll go through it quickly. I think you're aware of most of these, but I'd just like to touch on them briefly. The ordinance committee, which met last week to discuss the lease ordinance. If you recall, we cut the meeting after the lease ordinance to move on to our other meeting. We are scheduled to meet again tomorrow night to discuss the leash law and the tax abatement program. So at 6:30 in the Doc McIntosh room. The second thing, the purchase and sale agreement with Newport Realty is tentatively scheduled to be finalized on Thursday. I think everything is in order to do that. We finalized, as part of that development down to transportation-oriented development, we finalized the purchase of 861 Farmington Avenue, so we now own that building. And Doug has the keys, and so we're starting to look at that, and that will be incorporated into that development. On Thursday, there's a meeting scheduled in Speaker Arosimowicz's office at 1 p.m. to discuss the DOT and town requirements for the TOD project and the construction of Boulevard. And then on Friday, the DECD will be touring the site and also follow a discussion about the funding acquired to date and how we're going to spend the money.
What time that is?
I can get that to you.
It might be around.
Is Chris still here? No, Chris isn't here. I'm sorry. We'll get that to you. Item number 5, something that I really wanted to see done, and I'll probably, being a little bit of a geeky engineer, I'll probably be back to go take a look at it. The Kensington Dam has started, the work on the Kensington Dam has started. They've started by clearing the brush and debris at the base of the dam. That's one of the requirements that they had. And so that will be commencing, probably go through late next fall before they're complete on that project. The Burnham Street Bridge has been closed. I'm sure you're adequately aware of that. And it's going to remain closed until October. As Mike said, they are progressing very well, which is a good thing, and they should be finished that on time. The 2019 paving season has begun. Work has commenced on Norton Lane, Anton Lane, and Cliffview Drive. And to my knowledge, they've pulverized the road, and they should be getting it ready to pave shortly. You've probably heard the Town Hall door project has begun. This is going to be a good thing. You won't have snow coming in through the doors anymore. Should save energy, but probably more important is that they'll be more secure. It will change over to a badge security system. You'll have a swipe card for people coming in and out. There'll be less keys floating around for people to use.
People sneaking in and sleeping in the bathroom overnight?
Yeah, hopefully, unless we give them a key, we should be good. It'll also improve our off-hour security. As much as we like to say we always secure, somebody comes in, turns the lock, goes upstairs, and leaves and forgets to turn the lock and lock the door again. So this is going to improve that. The vestibule project at Willard School is continuing. To my knowledge, it's going according to schedule. The remaining schools are scheduled to have the vestibules this summer. As far as all that is going as planned. The Fleet Garage roof replacement, I heard that come up tonight. That is complete, and that was funded with LOSIF money, so it didn't come out of the town taxes directly. I mean, that's LOSIF money, you get it from the state of Connecticut. Karen had asked last time that Wendy attend this meeting. She is on a cruise, I believe.
Oh, nice for her.
So she decided not to come here, and she went on a cruise. But she will attend the next meeting. And
Good decision there. That's a good
Give you
decision.
the update that you would request.
Great. Do you know what the census is?
The last one, I think, is the last one that you knew. I don't have an update on it.
60, 66.
64, I think it's 66.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing, and I don't need to go into this, Peter already discussed this. I just want to give a shout out to the facilities and grounds department. It was Friday night. I started texting him sometime late. I was watching the Red Sox game and maybe have a beverage or two. And we were going back and forth with Peter. I give them a lot of credit. I mean, it's a Friday night, and they don't have to be sitting there on their town cell phone. But I'll say both Doug Solik and Steve Wood got back to me quickly. I think by Saturday morning we had a plan we had communicated that back to Peter, and by noon on Monday, because he expressed how important it was that we have those lights fixed. The only thing we want to point out is it wasn't because they didn't want to fix lights previously. It has just been so wet. They had looked at trying to do this. They didn't want to damage the field, so they were trying to save the field. But I just wanted to make sure that it was brought up to them that they did a very nice job, and I want to wish the baseball team good luck in their tournament. The last thing that's not on here is I won $2 at Bokino today at the senior center.
Oh, good for you.
I had a bet with one of the people that I wouldn't come up and play Bokino with him, so I won that too. And the last thing is, just briefly, and won't make it long, I just want to thank each one of you for the support for the last 2.5 years. I will tell you, I did enjoy the job. It may seem funny, but I did. And I really appreciated your input, your guidance, and also your friendship during that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask you one question, Jack? A couple meetings ago, Mr. Bajorski came to speak. Can you see that he comes, hopefully June 4th?
He's scheduled to come June 4th.
He is
I
scheduled?
didn't put that in here, but he's already scheduled to come June 4th.
Perfect. Just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Checked on that this morning for you.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, where are we at? Special
Committee reports.
What did we do with the ordinance the other night?
Excuse me?
Not much.
We already talked about
Nothing,
it.
we continued it to tomorrow night?
Yeah, Jen's gonna
I think that's what we did, right?
do it over.
Yeah, she's doing it over, okay, so really, yeah, we're,
Whatever happened to the sign regulations we were talking
we're still,
about?
You moved that to the planning and zoning to handle that.
Okay, so they're working with it?
It really is in their jurisdiction. I don't know that anything's been done with planning and zoning, but the town
It would
council.
be great to have something in place before the next election cycle, so people have nice, simple, clear.
I did send you an email today of an article out of I forget which one of the.
Yeah, I read it.
It was about freedom of speech with signs and
Yeah.
things. I thought it was pertinent that you have that to read. I think I sent it to you, Mark.
Can we move it forward just so we can get it in place before November? Thank you.
How about, Brendan, how'd you do with the planning committee?
The fields, got really an update on the hardships mostly it was because of weather, trying to schedule the teams, use the fields. I asked Jen to put something out there, maybe put it in the newspaper, just to let people know that, it is difficult. We're trying to do the best we can without trying to ruin the fields and letting too many people on them. Very, 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 very wet spring, as everybody knows.
And they're gonna move forward with a 10-year plan.
Yeah, they're gonna come up with a 10-year plan so that, we can look forward to seeing what needs to be done there also for keeping those fields up to date.
okay, thanks. So that's it for special committee, council communications? Anybody?
I spoke enough.
Okay, y'all spoke enough tonight. Acceptance of minutes, May 7th.
There is an error in the minutes.
Okay.
Kristen Campanelli, in that section,
Okay.
she didn't acknowledge, she read a citation from the House of Representatives thanking the Berlin VNA and the nurses of Berlin, and it was signed by Speaker of the House, Joe Arsimowitz, and Representative Abercrombie. It was a citation, so can that be fixed, please?
What happens with the minutes is, it will be reflected in these minutes that the correction had to be done.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yes.
Is that it? Okay, so we can,
Okay, motion to accept the May 7th, 2019 meeting minutes with the
As amended.
correction as amended.
second. Gary, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so moved. And now we're into that executive session. Boy, isn't that precious, 10 o'clock. Okay, well, so let's make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, I will make a motion to move into executive session pending litigations. Can I get general state statutes, strategy, and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation? We have mediation and claim by Master Batisto, Inc. We have a mediation with claims by Ferguson Contractors, a Helen Riggin civil case, the tax appeal from Rocky River Realty Company, Kasubal versus Town of Berlin, Rockwell versus Board of Education, Town of Berlin and VNA. Prospective litigations concerning 0 Atkins Street. We also have real estate, discussion of the site, selection of a site sale, purchase of real estate by the town on Kensington Road. Personnel matters concerning the appointment, employment, performance evaluation of a public employee, selection of an interim town manager.
Okay.
Coming in.
Attorney D'Onofrio, Denise. Well, it's all the same one, right? Yeah, so HR Director Denise Parsons,
Okay.
Because we haven't gone into it yet.
Town Manager Jack Healy, and that's it, right? Or
I'm going to go in for
You're
the
in?
selection.
for
So
what?
we'll be in and out, so
be in and out.
Oh,
you
okay.
can put me down and then
Okay. Kate Wall, yes. And that's it? That it? Yes, that's it. So we're into it at 10.
second.
So, oh yeah, do we have a second?
You gotta vote.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved, so we are in it as of 10 o'clock, so we'll just give